Hi everybody, this is Jessica. I'm doing part B for ADHD. So the article that I chose for this was titled Substance Use in Young Adults with ADHD, Comorbidity and Symptoms of Inattention and Hyperactivity/Impulsivity. And right underneath, obviously, you can see are the authors. So basically, this study looked at substance use in young adults with ADHD and also explored the comorbidities and how they also are attached to that issue as well, substance use in young adults with ADHD. So ADHD symptoms extend throughout life in 60% of cases, so it's important to look at how likely someone diagnosed with ADHD is to have a substance use problem later in life. So adults with ADHD, according to the literature that the authors looked at before conducting their study, adults with ADHD experience more anxiety disorders, mood disorders, conduct disorders, and antisocial personality disorders. They also have an increased dependence on nicotine, marijuana, alcohol, and other unspecified substance. So a good example that they gave is that 19 to 46% of adolescents with ADHD smoke cigarettes, while 10 to 24% of those without ADHD smoke. So the goal of the study was really, and this is a quotation from the authors, to increase the knowledge about ADHD when it coexists with addictive behaviors. So there were three aims of the study, like three questions, goals that they were trying to look at and gain an answer to. First was to compare young adults with ADHD and those with ADHD to determine their alcohol, tobacco, marijuana, and other illegal drug use. Compare the two and see which group possibly has substance use issues that are more prevalent. The second was to compare adults with ADHD and substance use to those without ADHD and substance use on problems associated with ADHD. And there are 6 of them: oppositional defiant disorder, conduct disorder, anxiety, sleep disorder, depression, and antisocial personality disorder. And then the last one is to investigate how much those associated disorders can predict the use of alcohol, tobacco, marijuana, and other illegal drug use in adults with ADHD. So a little bit of the nitty-gritty. There were 93 participants. They presented or the ones with ADHD, presented a clinical diagnosis of ADHD combined subtype according to the International Diagnostic Criteria for this subtype from the DSM-4. So there were 43 participants who did not have ADHD, 50 who did. They were part of a previous study that had been done. They were part of the Spanish sample of the multi-center ADHD genetics study. So they were originally evaluated between 5 and 16 years old. There were 81 participants. And then 10 years later, 50 of them participate, 14 didn't because they couldn't be contacted, 7 declined, and 10 were less than 17 years old, so they couldn't participate in the study. But the group as a whole was from 17 to 24. The 43 participants, obviously without ADHD, were not from the original study. So then over here, ADHD participants were split into 2 groups, substance use and non-substance use. According to these conditions, parents or participants had to report 1, frequent or very frequent alcohol consumption. That means 2 drinks a day or more than 4 in a week. 2, any amount of smoking daily. 3, marijuana use at least once a week, or 4, occasional use at least once a month of other illegal drugs. And that divided the ADHD participants into either substance use or non-substance use groups. And then to figure out comorbidities, there was a symptom record. So it was on a scale of 0 to 3, 0 being not at all, 1 was somewhat, 2 pretty much, or 3 very much. And then the questionnaire was about the 6 comorbidities that we talked about in the previous slide. If someone was in the range of 0 to 1, they were classified as not having any of these, and 2 to 3 was that there was a presence of comorbidities. So the results for the first aim to analyze ADHD and non-ADHD adults was that there was a statistically significant difference between the two groups. So although substance use was high for those with ADHD, other drugs didn't have a statistical difference. So it was just for alcohol, tobacco, and marijuana use that young adults with ADHD were more likely to have substance use. For the second goal, there were statistically significant differences in comorbidity for oppositional defiant disorder and conduct disorder in those that had ADHD and substance use when compared to those who did not use the various substances. But they did not differ significantly on the other four: anxiety, depression, sleep disorder, or antisocial personality disorder. And then for the third aim, found that neither ADHD symptoms nor conduct problems were associated with alcohol or tobacco use. So in the discussion, the authors looked at a few reasons as to why adults with ADHD would be more likely to use alcohol, tobacco, and marijuana. The first of this was just common genetic predisposition. So some research suggests that genetic factors account for 64% of the overlap between ADHD and alcohol use. So there are some connections between genetic factors that predispose someone to both ADHD and substance use issues. Self-medication was another possible reason, and then just personality factors that could include impulsivity, anger, or high levels of sensation seeking, which would make somebody more likely to use drugs or alcohol, academic failure, or just permissive parenting styles, which wasn't super addressed. I wish they had talked a little bit more about the fact that they looked at parental use of substances as well as participant use, which I thought was really interesting, but the authors did not really talk about. And then concerning the third result, they found that that conduct disorder symptoms are predictive of substance use, so that, as we saw in the first one, neither ADHD nor the conduct problems were associated with alcohol use, but some of the symptoms are predictive of substance use itself. And then so what? So the authors talked about preventative measures, because the reality is that people with ADHD are less likely to have success in treatment completion, have a longer time in substance use recovery, and are more likely to have an early relapse into substance use. So it's really important to have preventative measures to just keep young adults with ADHD from getting involved with using substances or drinking, and etc. And then they just talked about some alternative treatments for if someone with ADHD has a substance use disorder, including neurofeedback, cognitive behavioral therapy, and psychotherapeutic therapy, along with pharmacological therapy. But they did point out that medication use does not help people with ADHD to not become involved with substances or to recover from substance use. So that's sort of, they kind of implied that it's not quite enough, that there needs to be more to it than just medication. So a couple three national web sources that I found. I tried to find some things that weren't just about what ADHD is, because there are a lot of websites that answer those questions. So I tried to get a little bit of variety for different reasons, and I'm going to pull them up and just have them on the screen as well, just because I think it makes a difference to see it. So first with the National Institute of Mental Health. So I thought that was just like a really great comprehensive site. It just explains ADHD, touches upon the causes. It was really, really cool. So this is their website. It just defines it, gives it an overview, the warning signs, possible treatment. So pretty comprehensive, which was really, really nice. I liked that a lot. Second was the Attention Deficit Disorder Organization's website. So that is a cool information resource. It also explains the difference between ADD and ADHD. Which I thought was kind of important. And then this is theirs. And then it was just really neat. They had a lot of other resources here. So they have ADHD professionals, answers, you can like register for different things, which was really neat, and become a member. So I thought that gave like just a little bit of a different thing, not just parents, but also professionals that are serving adults who have ADHD, which I thought was really interesting and a really good resource. And then there is the Children and Adults with Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder website. They have great information for caregivers and parents, along with information for adults with ADHD specifically. So this is their website right here. And what's really cool is you can become a member, and they also have like magazine subscriptions and toolkits, training. So they have teacher trainings, training for professionals and for events. And they also just have a lot of information just for adults with ADHD. And I think we talk a lot about children with ADHD, but not a ton about adults with ADHD and giving them the resources that they need. So that was a really great resource as well. So that is my little section. I'm just going to pull up our references at the end of my part, and thank everybody for listening and for participating, and I look forward to also watching everybody else's presentations. Thank you.